A lot of us come into adult relationships carrying stories, habits, and expectations we didn't consciously choose, but learned along the way. In this episode, we're not focusing on blaming or fixing, we're focusing on awareness. Because once we understand why we show up the way we do in relationships, we can begin to choose differently with intention, compassion, and clarity. Welcome back to Stay Mindful with Dr. Evelyn Davis. I'm Dr. Evelyn Davis, and today we are talking about something that touches every area of our lives, and that is relationships. Whether it's romantic friendships, family dynamics, or even work relationships, however they show up for you, the way we connect is rarely random. There's usually a pattern, and that pattern has a history. To understand where those patterns come from, we need to start with attachment. Attachment just isn't something that applies to childhood, just so we know. It's a lasting psychological connection between human beings, which means that it impacts adults. And those early experiences help shape how we manage our emotions, express ourselves, feel, and connect with others in meaningful and lasting ways. Attachment doesn't just disappear when we get older, though. It shows up everywhere that a relationship exists. Research has shown that just like in family or romantic relationships, attachment patterns also show up in friendships, leadership dynamics, and also the workplace. Anywhere there's a connection, attachment is present. So, as you begin to reflect on the relationships around you, I want you to take a moment to notice what may be influencing how you or the people you interact with daily show up. This might look like how conflict is handled, how feedback is received, how support is given or even avoided, or how closeness and distance are managed. These patterns aren't always obvious, but once you start noticing them, they can offer powerful insight into why certain relationships feel easy while others feel draining or challenging. There are four primary attachment styles, and most of us tend to lead towards one, especially under stress. So, the first one up is secure attachment. People who have a sense of secure attachment tend to feel comfortable with closeness and space. They have open communication and emotional expression. What this can look like is you can talk things out without yelling or shutting down. You're comfortable expressing what you need without fear. You trust others, but you don't rely on them for everything. You can build relationships or be single and still feel whole. Next, we have avoidant attachment. People who have avoidant attachment often value independence, emotional distance, and control, particularly when situations feel intense. This can look like you avoiding talking about your feelings, even when something's wrong. You rather pull away or go silent than explain your boundaries. You feel uncomfortable with emotional closeness, and you might even keep people at arm's length to avoid being hurt. Next, we have anxious attachment. Anxious attachment may involve overthinking, that fear of abandonment, and a strong need for reassurance. This can look like overthinking messaging or tones or even silence from people. You also tend to worry about whether people still like you. You feel like you're always trying harder than the other person, and you may say that you're fine, but hope that the other person pushes for more. Last, we have disorganized attachment. Disorganized attachment can feel like a push and pull, a wanting a connection while also fearing it. It's often linked to past instability or even trauma. What this can look like is a strong desire to be accepted, paired with a strong urge to protect yourself, feeling overwhelmed by emotions, and pulling away when things get too close. Inconsistency or hesitation when making relationship decisions. Also, wanting closeness, but also not trusting it. It's important to remember that these styles aren't labels, they're patterns. And patterns can change once we become more aware of them. For areas where attachment shows up in more maladaptive ways, building security starts with small, intentional shifts, like learning to name emotions, communicate your needs directly, and to tolerate healthy closeness without overextending or shutting down. And for those who feel like they may lean more towards a secure attachment, security still requires care. Maintaining it means continuing to communicate openly, honoring boundaries, staying curious during conflict, and offering consistency to yourself and to others. It also is helpful to remember that attachment isn't fixed. Your attachment styles can shift depending on the relationship, the environment, or the level of stress that you're under. Someone may feel secure in their friendships, anxious in romantic relationships, and even avoidant in the workplace. Understanding attachment helps us to recognize why we show up the way that we do in relationships. But the next question becomes, how do relationships stay connected over time? And that's where the relationship attachment model comes in, or RAM. This was developed by Dr. John Van Epp. He also has a book that I love called How to Avoid Falling in Love with a Jerk, where he talks about the RAM model and the 5 key areas of bonding that create connection, safety, and stability in relationships. Rather than viewing challenges as personal flaws or even relationship failures, the RAM gives us a clearer picture of where connection may be strong and where it may need support. According to the relationship attachment model, relationships bond through 5 distinct areas. These areas build on one another and create the foundation for a healthy, stable connection. So, first, we're going to start in the first area, and it is the know. This area reflects openness, communication, and understanding. Knowing someone means being seen and allowing yourself to be seen through honesty and transparency. Now, what that looks like is asking questions and really listening to the answers, using that reflective listening. It's also sharing thoughts, values, and experiences over time, not all at once, but gradually. It's being curious about the other person and allowing them to truly know who you are so that you can continue to build in the know. Next, we have trust. Trust represents how safe and secure you feel with someone. It's built through consistency, reliability, and emotional safety over time. What that looks like is knowing someone will follow through on what they say. It's feeling emotionally safe to express your concerns without fear of being dismissed or even punished for feeling some type of way. The trust in this area grows when actions match words again and again. It's letting your yes mean yes and your no mean no, and someone respecting that. Next, we have the rely. Rely speaks to mutual support and dependability. It's the sense that you don't have to carry everything alone and that support goes both ways. Relying on someone means asking for help when you need it and offering help when you can, meaning that you're not going to offer it knowing that you can't do it. It's also knowing that you can lean on someone without feeling like a burden. The next area that we have is commitment, and this reflects the investment in the relationship. It shows how much effort, priority, and intention you bring to maintaining a relationship. What that can look like is showing up consistently over time. It's choosing the relationship even when it requires effort, repair, or uncomfortable conversations. It's being intentional about showing up, not just when it's easy, but when it matters. And last, we have closeness or touch. In John Van Epp's book, he focuses on touch because it's talking about romantic relationships. But when I bring this concept, um, in the other areas like professional and even with kids, I use closeness because this area represents emotional and also physical connection. Closeness looks different depending on the relationship, but it always involves connection. Coworkers, closeness may look like mutual respect, approachability, and even appropriate friendliness. With family, it may involve emotional availability, shared experience, and even physical affection, like hugging. With friends, it often includes emotional intimacy, shared vulnerability, and then also consistent presence. With partners, closeness may include emotional intimacy, physical touch, and a deep sense of connection and safety. When one or more of these areas are weak, mismatched, or out of balance, tension often shows up. This can happen when we skip around, move too quickly, in one area while neglecting others, leaving the relationship without a solid foundation to build on. To visualize this, I want you to imagine your relationship like you're baking a cake. You need all the ingredients and you need them in the right order. If you skip steps, rush the process, or ignore the timing, the cake won't turn out right. Take it out too early and it's underdone. Leave it in too long and it burns. And if you never put it in the oven at all, well, it's not really a cake. Relationships work in the same way. When we follow the process, give ourselves the ingredients needed for a healthy, satisfying connection. And here's the key connection. Our attachment patterns often influence which bonding areas feel natural and which feel more challenging. Recognizing that gives us insight to build healthier, more intentional relationships. So, here's a gentle reflection I want you to sit with. Which of the 5 bonding areas feels the strongest in your relationships, and which feels the most challenging? And another question that is just as important is how might your attachment style be influencing how you show up in those areas? This isn't about judgment. This is about awareness, and awareness creates choice on what you're going to do next. Healthy relationships aren't built on perfection. They're built on understanding, communication, and intentional connection. When we understand our attachment patterns and the bonding areas that shape our relationships, we give ourselves the opportunity to grow without shame and to connect in ways that feel safer, stronger, and more aligned. Healthy relationships aren't built on perfection. They're built on understanding, communication, and intentional connection. If today's episode stirred up some curiosity or some self reflection, I invite you to join me next week for a short mini episode where we'll slow things down and reflect together. When we understand our attachment patterns and the bonding areas that shape our relationships, we give ourselves the opportunity to grow without shame and to connect in ways that feel safer, stronger, and more aligned. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this work. And until next time, stay mindful. Thank you for listening to Stay Mindful with Dr. Evelyn Davis. You can follow the podcast on Podbean, Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. And if today's episode helped you, leave a review or share it with someone who could use it. Until next time, stay mindful.